also the IEBC issue, which we seem to be seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Would you say it's too early for us to sigh a sigh of relief, or can we know that that's a done deal and now move on as a country?
I keep on repeating, and I say whether or not IEBC commissioners will leave is a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time.
It was a matter of time, it remains a matter of time, and it will be a matter of time. The way it is, they will not preside over the coming elections. And that's why one time I appealed to them and said, my brothers, don't wait for blood to flow freely. You leave. Don't even wait for the money. It is not worth it. So if that is the only issue that is creating commotion in the country, then it is a done deal. But you never know, court will spring up something else. This one, I think from there they go to Supreme Court. From Supreme Court, they may just want the president himself.
Well, at least one at a time, and if it's IEBC...
if it is IEBC, it's done.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal, and I'm telling you, I don't think it will take long. 2-3 weeks, these guys are out.
Your comments on possibly some of the 4 things that they require, one of them being the fact that the president and the opposition leader are the ones to sign off what the parliament finally comes up with.
Actually, what is there is it still has to go through parliament. An agreement has to be done. That is taken to parliament. The IEBC Act is amended to give them a way out. And the part that the commissioners have to do is they must accept to leave. If they refuse, then a tribunal will be necessary. But again, that one, when the president and the other, when the team is combined, they can shout at you using loudspeakers, and you just leave office.
Well, I think it's a custom.
So then it goes to parliament, the legislation is done. If there's a package for them, they are given. And then the contentious part which will have to be sorted out is the selection panel. Who will appoint it? The current law, the president will have to appoint 4, and then there are 2 others from other organizations. This will be very contentious. So this will be worked out, how the interest of CORD team is taken into account, the interest of Jubilee is taken into account, and then new people are given a chance, because we also have to advertise the jobs. New people come in, and they settle as quickly as possible.
Now, let me discuss this dispassionately of the fact that I'm a CORD member. And now I also talk as a legislator, and I see the debate in Parliament. They're like, ultimately, it is for the principals on both sides to rally their troops. In terms of parliamentary independence, or independence of the various arms of Parliament, people feel that it is for Raila Odinga to tell, and Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula to rally the CORD people to vote for whatever agreement that comes of it. Much in the same way the commitment by Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto is to get their members to vote for that proposition. But Parliament, I'm hearing the hesitation of it just simply rubber stamping an instrument in terms of the precedence it will be setting, you know. So after you get a constitution, the next phase is institution building. Institution building means you strengthen institutions of government and governance generally across the board. So for me, I will vote for whatever outcome if it is the negotiated settlement. But it should not be a condition that Parliament must enact it. It must be such that we must rally our political troops. So the commitment here must come directly from Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, that they will ensure that they mobilize the Jubilee forces to append in whatever parliamentary group meeting, so that they look magnanimous in terms of seeing this deal through. And Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka and Wetangula to do the same. Because I've had the argument, not in principle, not a question of partisan now, in principle that let's not set precedences that can hurt this country eventually. You see, like that time, as much as it was signed outside the KNDR, Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation efforts, as much as it was signed outside Parliament, there was that general need at that time to bring stability to the country. So everybody went and voted for the instrument. So but to create a compulsion kind of is also an affront to the various independence of these organs, because that Parliament is a center for debate. It is a center for discourse. It is supposed to, even if 100% of the members want to ascribe to that, let them do so. But if there's one person who wants to document his name in history, that I have opposed it, let there be also that room for him or her to do so. That is, I think, the basic principle.
I think they are now coming back to what the president has all along been saying. Let
that's
us
my
follow.
position, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
your
that's
position.
Senators,
that's a very sober position, and that's what the president has been saying all along, that this thing has to be a legal process. It has to go through parliament, and so that parliament does also appear to be rubber stamping. And the easier way then would have been to go through parliamentary committees. But you agree in principle outside that you would want this and this and this reflected. Then Parliament takes it, they negotiate on it, they then work out a legislation that takes into account the principles. But CORD on the other side, Honorable Raila Odinga said, we negotiate outside and then we take it to Parliament. And that's where the president has been saying, no, I don't have a control. I don't have control over this. These are not my children that I can go there with a rungu and say, enact this. They will refuse.
Why have I said that? Mombasa was severely disadvantaged with the first generation of revenue sharing formula. And every revenue sharing formula was a consensus outside Parliament. We were in retreats, we were everywhere. And I kept raising my point that we as Mombasa cannot, I as Mombasa Senator cannot support this revenue sharing arrangement. We need to bridge the fiscal gap, responsibility. We need to bridge the gap of wage bills and many other considerations that needed to come into it. And ultimately, when I got an opportunity, I lobbied my colleagues to vote against the proposed first formula. And finally, we had to now renegotiate the formula. But before that formula even started the processes of generating a new formula, go to the parliamentary records. There was always one vote that voted nay. That was my vote. Because as a matter of principle, I wanted to state myself in the records that I do not agree with this formula. As much as all of you will take it forward, I do not agree with this formula. Ultimately, and everybody knew, and some of these positions, we even went into code PGs, and we said this is a good position, and I will protest it. And when I went to Parliament or the Senate, I will vote against it. So that's why I thought in those unique circumstances, in fact, the dissent in many of these broad arrangements is usually minor. Even last week, we had this Political Parties Act. Only one of our colleagues said this act, we took a position, we vote for it, the amendment, and one of our colleagues said no, in a very objective manner.